My name is Walter Lewis, and I'm the president and CEO of the Homewood Children's Village.
My name is Jaleesa Coffey. I'm the Deputy CEO and Director of Youth Development at Homewood Children's Village.
James Brown, Director of Youth Development for the Homewood Brushton YMCA.
My name is Etha Cow. I'm the Director of Digital Inclusion and Innovation at Neighborhood Allies.
My name is Karen Liu. I am the Senior Program Manager for Digital Inclusion and Innovation at Neighborhood Allies. So we work very closely with a bunch of different community partners to offer different programming in the STEM education field, digital literacy skills. It really runs the whole gamut, and we service kindergarten through seniors. So for example, we have workshops that teach basic computer skills like how to turn on a computer, how to use, really basic applications like Microsoft Word, all the way to coding.
Yeah, I think digital inclusion for Homewood Children's Village and for the Homewood community is like, how do our residents, our young people, our families become a part of this sort of the digital reality of our 21st century, right? Like, the world is moving increasingly more and more digital, and there's an equity conversation of how do residents of a community like Homewood, who've often been left behind, forgotten, and not included in so many things, how do they become a part of that story, that process?
I think achieving equity is something that we all consider a North Star at Neighborhood Allies. It's extremely hard to do, but I think it is very possible, and it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of understanding where people are at so that we're able to provide them with the resources that they need. So I think it takes a lot of listening, honestly. That needs to start first of all. And then saying, oh, well, if you
Our partnership with Neighborhood Allies really allowed us to go a lot deeper in schools with digital inclusion and STEM work. We were able to establish set calendar days and times where we were going into schools, bringing fun activities for young people to kind of bring STEM and digital inclusion type work to life. Sometimes it's just very computer, right? We talk about like computers and phones, and some of those things are more accessible, but when we think
STEM education is incredibly important for the children and families in Homewood. It's where our world is going. And for folks that are not tuned into STEM education and learning, my fear is that folks will be left behind. So many of the job opportunities, even ones that we don't think of as technical, often require, in at least the 21st century versions of them, they require some technical expertise. And so my greatest concern and fear is that if our young people don't.
Sure. So I think people talk about digital inclusion and digital equity interchangeably. I talk about digital inclusion and equity. So if we talk about equity, we hear it oftentimes associated with racial equity, and it absolutely is. I think if you talk about equity, it's really in leveling the playing field. If somebody starts at a different position than somebody else, then you give them more resources so they can compete equally. I think if you talk about inclusion, it's making sure everyone is involved. And I think if it's in the context of digital inclusion, it's making sure everyone is involved in the conversation around, do you have your computer? Do you have your high-speed internet access? Do you feel comfortable and confident using that computer and that internet to access, is it a job, or like, is it Netflix? Like, do you remember your login? Are you able to access your medical benefits online? Are you able to make your doctor's appointments? I think that is the inclusion piece.
We've been doing a lot to increase access to digital technology and computers. Everything from our recording studio, where young people can learn and be apprentices in learning things like podcasting and broadcasting, mixing, audio engineering, to our Startable program, where kids can learn web design and be entrepreneurs and develop their own websites, to our digital drawing classes.
Oh, I think digital inclusion and digital equity is something that's really kind of a hot topic nowadays across the country. But I think a lot of the work that Neighborhood Allies does in this space really started to ramp up with the COVID-19 pandemic. That really brought to the forefront the types of barriers and the digital divide, as we like to talk about in this space, between individuals and households across Allegheny County.
When I think about what a neighborhood with digital equity, like what it looks like, I see young people with access to technology that they know how to use, that they're able to use to their benefit. I see young people like building things, creating things, having access to the latest and greatest. You walk down the street and some kids flying a little drone or something like that, and other kids like got some little robot that they programmed and they're walking their little robotic dog. And because that's some of the stuff that kids in other communities are doing. And it's not that our kids aren't capable, it's not that our kids aren't interested, but a lot of times we don't have access to the resources. Some families can afford to go to the store and buy that little robotic dog and teach their kid how to code at home. Some kids, if your school doesn't offer it, you don't even know that exists. Like I think about my own daughter, and my background's in programming, but she was fortunate to be in the gifted program at Pittsburgh Public Schools. So many kids are not in that program. That's how she got access to learning about coding. She loves it. She's 8, and she's telling me about the things that she coded. That should be the reality for every kid in the community.